Are you tired of mass-produced products that have no originality and no personal style? Well, Mama Nancy makes everything herself. No mass production lines or warehouses. When you get a Nancy bag, you know that only one person made that bag from start to finish. So go to www.fallbackusa2.myshopify.com and pick out yours today.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Ron Hooper. Thank you, Gainesville, for inviting myself and Dave and also Antonio Jones to speak today. And then after the speech, what was the guy name from Tennessee that says he had his own camera? He was shooting it, videotaping it?
Card is in the bag.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he was like, have you thought about
Dave.
being syndicated? What?
His name's Dave.
Yeah, I know his name is Dave. He said, have you ever thought about being syndicated? No, not really. He said, well, we getting ready to start up this network and we wanted to put you all over the nation. He said, not only that, he said, would you send that video to Charlie Kirk? You know who Charlie Kirk is? Yeah, I know who he is. Turning Point, I'm too old for them. So, you know what? They got Candace. We good. So welcome back, everybody, to the Real News with Lucretia Hughes and Dave. Do not forget, April the 12th, right here. Get over here. We have two performers, 3 if you include Antonio Jones, who's going to be singing the national anthem and his own. Then we have Tom Cates. Then we have also Matt Thompson, Make America Great Again, coming down. He will be here. We got Danny Hamilton and the Trump bus will actually be here also. So like I said, y'all get over there. We have until April. I want everything to be completely done by April the 10th. And I know we can do it. Y'all get over there. Donate, donate, donate. Donate. And share the Eventbrite page. My phone is lighting up. Where Marci McCarthy?
I'm working on it.
Okay, then Marci, he got you, girl. He coming, Marci. So y'all make sure y'all do that and get over there to Fall Back USA 2. How many shirts of Cancer Suck have we sold? At least 10 by now. Y'all get over there to Fall Back USA 2. Now listen to this, because Trump has been winning all day. I mean, breaking. This is not Trump. This is actually Mike Johnson. Woo, cross your fingers. Incredible. Speaker Mike Johnson issued an open threat now saying that Congress has authority to stop providing funding to federal courts. Okay. It says we do have the authority over the federal courts. We can eliminate any entire district court. We have powers funding over the courts and all of these other things, but desperate time calls for desperate measures, and Congress is going to act. Wow. Sure. We all gonna wait and see. I see Marci, but I want to bring Marci on. Okay, then. Listen to this, everybody. President Donald Trump, because Marci just left the Gold Dome. Okay, she been busy. Okay, she stay busy. It says President Donald Trump signed an executive order containing 6 important provisions on election integrity to prevent Democrat electoral fraud. Boy, you know Brad Raffensperger's tweaking. Bring her back. Bring her on before I say something I'm not supposed to. Hey, Marci.
Hey, Lucretia, how you doing?
Are you still the chairwoman in DeKalb County?
I was just reelected by a landslide victory this past weekend. So, yes, I am.
Who was going to take your seat? Who was going to take your seat?
I did have a competitor, but I won by a considerable margin. So
look at my face. Look. Who thought they was getting ready to take your seat as a chairwoman of DeKalb County GOP?
William Freeman was my opponent.
I'm blinking. And look, you should have gave him a seat like pencil pusher, but it'll be okay. Can you please not only introduce yourself, but tell people where you were today? Because I saw what you did. I saw what you did under the Gold Dome when it comes to our rights. So give an introduction and let everybody know who you are, because I know who you are, but they don't. Go ahead.
Well, you're an amazing woman yourself, Miss Lucretia. So thank you for all that you do for all of America overall. I'm Marci McCarthy, and I'm the chair of the Republican Party in DeKalb. the DeKalb GOP, as Lucretia mentioned. I was just down at the Capitol for a bill that's been resurrected in the Senate called SB 217. It was supposed to be SB 303, but it was a substitute. Senator Max Burns came in and did a valiant and very informative briefing on this new bill and talked about, just in general, that it's time for paper ballots. Watermark paper ballots, that is, and then the tabulation would be in an optical scanner that has no ability to, like anything like the Dominion machine. It's a 180. Concurrently, as we were sitting there doing the hearing and testifying, I did testify today on behalf of this whole initiative in favor of this bill. President Trump signed an amazing election order with many points in it to include paper ballots and no more QR codes.
Thank you.
And it to be tabulated on an optical scanner type of device. So the fact of the matter, and there's a lot of other points in his election integrity executive order. So for the Department of Justice to collaborate on any type of election fraud. And it also implies that Eric would be eliminated. So meaning that the voter rolls would have to be maintained on a state-by-state basis with collaboration amongst the states. So if there was any nefarious activity or people leaving the voter rolls and getting, being done, so we are not going to have a system anymore like an Eric per se that only has 24 states that are doing reciprocity of changes and don't really adhere to any of the address changes to begin with.
Yes.
And so actually, if you move to like Florida or something like that, Florida notifies Georgia that you have a new driver's license and you are registered to vote here. They send a notification to Georgia and they take you off the voter rolls. It's kind of, common sense legislation at the end of the day. So it's just basically, that's the executive order. But I'm really excited about our General Assembly following the lead of President Trump today. And we're expecting that this bill that was resurrected will pass committee tomorrow and fast track its way through the House side and make it through, sine die. And we will have paper ballots sooner than later in Georgia and ditching Dominion.
You really think they're going to get it through the House this time around? And it's going to be, you think it'll be completed before the sine die? Because that's coming up very fast.
It's going to fast track. And the problem is with the Dominion machines, there's many problems, obviously, with the Dominion machines. But the reality is the upgrade to remove the QR codes is a nightmare. It's $66 million of money, not taxpayer dollars, not well spent here in Georgia. And specifically, the upgrade, Microsoft in the operating system for Dominion will sunset the technology on the platform in the middle of the midterm elections in 2026. So we're back to square one, and there's more equipment involved. So it's throwing bad money after more bad money after bad Dominion overall. So at the end of the day, this is a better solution. There was even some Democrat support in there from Senator Kim Jackson, which was kind of stunning for this bill. And we'll see where it goes. Maybe it will end up being bipartisan and we can restore fitness, faith, integrity, and trust in our elections here in Georgia once and for all and ditch Dominion.
Well, I'm going to have to wait a minute, because was it last week or the week before last? Brad asked for $49 million for the upgrade and upkeep of Dominion vote machines from the Secretary of State office. Did that pass? Did he get that money he was asking for?
So it's still sitting there overall. So that money is earmarked. That's a good thing that there's money earmarked in our budget. So this can be redirected to pay for the different types of equipment that we will need for the paper ballots and the technology that supports the optical scanners. They're also pushing in our bill, Senate Bill 317, is to have ballots being printed on demand. So meaning you come in there as the elector, you check in and you pass go, you show your voter ID, and that ballot is printed right there on the spot for you. So there's no extra ballots running around, and the ballot image would be correct, especially during early voting for you. And so there's some debate, though, of course, around Election Day. Will the pre-printed ballots, because a precinct might have uniform ballots or ballot images, overall, making it a little easier to pre-print on Election Day. But the mindset is to really not do any pre-printing, so there's no challenges there of the ballot being mishandled or any kind of stolen ballots. It would these ballots that they're saying that would be printed on demand would be on special watermarked paper,
Good.
security type of paper, so they cannot be photocopied like we kind of saw in some of the activities in 2020. So this is a much more better process. It follows what actually they do in Virginia, which is working very well. This model works exactly what they're doing in Virginia, and it's been well received on both sides of the aisle there.
What are they going to do with the drop boxes?
That was not discussed, in present day, but the drop boxes have had a lot more control in past legislation, quite frankly. So they have to be inside in an early voting location, okay? And then they have to be locked. So they're not available 24/7 like they were in the 2020 elections. And then we require voter ID for all methods of voting. So we saw a huge drop off per se of the drop boxes and the absentee votings, and they receded to pre-2016 levels in the 2024 election. So the early voting, is obviously, President Trump also has this an election integrity executive order, wanting to have single day voting, but that's still like we have the genie out of the bottle. We have one of the largest early voting day periods of 19 days with 2 Saturdays and 2 Sundays. That's going to be very hard to put back in the genie back in the bottle for that. But the whole aspect of drop boxes is very difficult, quite frankly, right now. To cheat in that manner because of the method that requiring voter ID and the fact that they're locked up, and there's a process in the poll in the early voting location where the poll worker has to open the drop box at the beginning of the day to make sure that there's nobody has put a ballot in there overnight mistakenly, or at the closeout that all ballots are removed from that drop box and put into the materials that are sent back to election headquarters that day.
I have his executive order up, and I'm looking at the 6 things that he actually wants. The last 2, it says take appropriate action against states that count ballots received after Election Day in federal election, because that's like Arizona, New Mexico. Hey, some of our counties in Georgia also was still counting after Fulton. Fulton in a couple of counties was still saying it was having issues or something like that. It should be counted in a simpler way for everything to get counted on one day. And any of the ballots that are coming in after that, if it's not stamped, because USPS, United States Postal Service, you can actually see when they stamp the actual envelope. And if it's after the election day, it should not be open and it should not be acceptable. What do you think about that?
I think it's a wonderful step forward, quite frankly. If you look at California, they were still doing tabulation and determination of election outcomes for almost 30 days after the election went well into December. So the fact of the matter is that doesn't give you any type of trust in the outcome, and it gives you many, many opportunities on so many different levels to cheat, and that's pretty much what happened. So you can't do that. You have to be able to have a method and a methodology that's transparent, that's expeditious, because we do live in a real-time world, but everyone has to feel comfortable with the process and the actions and then the outcome.
I know Stacey Abrams was just ruled against, and her organization that was out there with the voters and the voter integrity and getting people registered to vote. Listen to the 6th one. It says revoke Biden's executive order 14019, which turned federal agencies into Democratic voter turnout centers. Do you think that some of that money that she received or they received was from USAID a part of her big voter turnout? So when Stacey Abrams was running against Brian Kemp, she had a lot of parties, block parties, different things all over the state, and they was also having a voter turnout to get people to sign people up to vote. Is that what President Trump is talking about, taking or getting taxpayers funded from the federal level to give it to these organizations or NGOs so they could stop being used as the Democrat voter turnout? Is that what President Trump is saying?
Well, first of all, USAID is really directed towards not domestic, but international type of endeavors that don't, as we've revealed, that don't jive with our shared values and putting America first, as we've seen some of the horrific outlays of money and the lack of accountability there. But what we did see with Stacey Abrams is a number of different schemes that she has participated in. Most recently, the EPA just discovered
$2 billion.
$2 billion in a slush fund in a bank, basically to have green type of appliances distributed during election season to allegedly have some clean energy affiliation to reduce electric bills. Now, her pilot was really in South Georgia and was one woman that she claims that reduced the electric bill by 50%. Or something in that range, but they only had $100 in their bank account, and then the ultimate Ponzi scheme to receive $2 billion from taxpayer dollars in the federal government via slush fund that was really almost untraceable. Thank God for Lee Zeldin and Doge making those identifications. They're in the process of clawing that back, but Stacey Abrams is totally in the hot seat in many different areas, quite frankly. She evaded many things around different filings with the Elections Commission here in Georgia. So she's been fined, one of the largest fines ever in our state's history for violating those Election Commission rules overall. And then now the Senate here in Georgia wants to partner with the Department of Justice to open up several other investigations. So the money trail and her nefarious activities are being unearthed and uncovered, and the investigations about her are just beginning. So, we have to have due process. We have to make sure that those investigations go in a manner that they're being done with due diligence so that they do stand the test of time and go into court and have a fair trial with with hopes, obviously, with a positive outcome. But that's like quite a little ways off, that the investigations need to start and have the evidence and the, overall. So
now listen to this. Conditions federal election related funds on states complying with integrity measures set forth by the federal law. What federal law? Because I thought when it comes to state elections, it's different from a federal election. So do the federal government actually give, let's say, Secretary of State or the state of Georgia funds to actually run elections?
Yes, actually, the federal government does fund their elections in terms of federal elections, and the state has responsibility and oversight for the state elections. But the Secretary of State's office is the custodian of all elections that take place, especially here in Georgia. For example, I can't speak to all the other different states, but a Secretary of State is typically the custodian of the elections and the election equipment and the election process, whether it is federal, state, or local or municipal elections.
So President Trump and the federal government can pull funds from Brad Raffensperger in his office if they feel like they're not only up and up with the elections or any elections at all.
I'm not sure about that being an accurate statement, Lucretia. So we'd have to kind of table that to make sure that I'm not totally sure. Quite frankly, we did pass a lot of legislation here in Georgia called SB 222, which stops Zuckerbucks with third-party money. So it has a process in which outside money, whether it is coming from the government or another third-party entity, and how that money can be taken in and then distributed, and it was better defined. That was the basis of the Democrats finding a loophole in SB 202, our Election Integrity Act, and exploiting that. So specifically, DeKalb County was ground zero for Zuckerbucks 2.0 here in Georgia. And specifically, the county CFO collaborated with our election board our election chairman at the time to find a grant, and filed for the grant and got $2 million in Zuckerbucks money that was actually transmitted and paid to DeKalb County. And a law was passed consequently thereafter. But you can't, because of de facto, go back and claw that money back. It was already given and they hadn't broken the law. That the county circumvented the whole thing. It's supposed to be distributed to the state and then down equitably to the state or counties overall. So now moving forward, if anyone were to do that, there's actually a criminal penalty that's associated and a fine that's starting at $10,000. If that CFO in DeKalb County had done that on this watch was SB 222, he would be serving 1 year minimum in jail and paying a minimum of $10,000 criminal fine.
The other one, he says, President Trump, with his executive order, direct the attorney generals to enter into information sharing agreement with state election officials to identify cases of election fraud or other election law violations. Do you think our Secretary of State is going to be working with, let's say, Florida, Mississippi, Tennessee, Alabama, or even the federal government to see if anybody that they have flagged someone for election fraud or questionable integrity when it comes to the election? You think Chris Carr is actually going to do that?
Well, actually, that doesn't fall in the purview of Chris Carr. So ERIC, a system called ERIC, which only has 24 states remaining, there is a reciprocity type of system that was really developed by Democrat operatives to share information about voter rolls overall. So this has aspects of the voter rolls. So there is legislation that is in play in this session right now that would take us out of ERIC by law. And if that happens and passes through, and they're championing this down there as we speak right now, this would force the Secretary of State to resign on behalf of Georgia out of the ERIC system. And that would go into a reciprocity type of system overall, as suggested by President Trump in the his election integrity executive order.
It says direct the updating of voluntary voting system guidelines 2.0 and security standards for voting equipment. That's the taking the QR code off and getting us better equipment. It says, which includes requiring a voter verifiable paper ballot, which is the watermarks, right? Record, and not use ballots in which the counted vote is contained within a barcode or QR code. Now that he signed that executive action, you went down there today to testify in front of Georgia under the Gold Dome. It kind of goes hand in hand. You really want to get rid of. We just want to get rid of Dominion, okay? If that's what it takes. We want to get rid of the barcode and the QR code. So since he signed this executive order, it goes hand in hand what you went down there to testify on today. So it's kind of
the timing can be more beautiful, quite frankly, yes. Lucretia. Now, this is voluntary, so it is already law here in Georgia that we passed in the last legislative cycle that the QR codes, the proprietary QR code specifically, that the Dominion machines generate as the ballot image and used for the tabulation have been outlawed. So they have to be decommissioned off the ballots. That is part of the basis of the upgrade of the $66 million that Brad Raffensperger and his cohorts are petitioning the Georgia legislature for right now as we speak. So they have to adhere to law. We already have gotten rid of the QR code. So that's one step further. But what we have identified is the operating system that Dominion runs on is going to be sunsetted by Microsoft in the middle of the midterm elections in 2026. Okay, so you're throwing bad money after, taxpayer dollars after really bad money overall, and it doesn't solve the problem. So the fact of the matter is, this bill that we just testified for, and I think is going to be fast tracked through the different processes down in the legislature, will be signed into law in May. That's my hope. It will go through, and that will force the ditching of Dominion overall. There's so many problems, with Dominion, from certification of the machines, that the operating systems, are already obsolete. The lack of trust in them, the encryption keys. DeKalb Republican Party is suing the Secretary of State of Georgia over the encryption keys. The fact of the Dominion machines have their passwords hard-coded the encryption keys into the database, and the password is DVS Corp 08 exclamation point, and that has not been changed
So
since
anybody can
presumably
use it.
2008. And we're in an appeal process right now. So this is a huge win overall. So this whole lawsuit that we have been pursuing, with the help of the Georgia GOP and the RNC helping to underwrite this, will become actually null and void because there is no Dominion machines to worry about the encryption keys for, because we will have watermarked paper ballots in Georgia.
All right, let's talk about a not honest election person. What's going on with Fannie Willis? Because you like right one county over. Come on, you know your ear is to the ground.
Well, we should have hired Courtney Kramer first and foremost instead of and fired Fannie Willis. She's so nefarious. So she's been fined great Fulton County taxpayer dollars at work by different judges for withholding information during FOIA requests, discovery. Most recently with Ashley Merchant, she just got fined another $56,000. That's Fulton County taxpayer dollars paying for her errors and admissions overall in her errors overall, withholding with information for Ashley Merchant's clients, the alternate electors, the defendants with President Trump during the course of the witch hunt overall. Additionally, she's been fined numerous times. She's not an honest broker, as we all know, and she's not solving the problem in crime, and she's not doing so in due process. So there's people dying in Fulton County concentration camp, quite frankly, on a daily basis, or in having health issues because they're not seeing their due process. That is our American way, is to have due process. You are entitled to have due process. So there are people that cannot, have been forgotten about. And I'm not saying that they should, these people might have committed a crime.
Basically, what she's saying, everybody, is
she's not giving them an opportunity to defend themselves,
right,
whether they have or not.
If y'all never heard of, and you might want to tell them a little bit, because we from all around the United States and the world, so a lot of people don't know about Fulton County or Fulton County Jail and how many investigations and people not going to court for 1-2 years on minimum stuff. Death in there, bugs in there, bed bugs,
yes,
roaches, them being beaten to death. So there's a lot of stuff. So that's why I was asking you about Fulton County, because a lot of people, they hear about Fulton County on the news, but then they never hear about it again.
So sadly, a prisoner waiting, for their due process died while in custody at Fulton County Jail of bed bugs. I can't imagine the horrific death of being eaten to death by bed bugs. I mean, that sounds like something out of a third world country. And even in a third world country, would you even have such an atrocity happen to somebody, waiting for their trial? And they haven't even been charged, with anything of significance to withhold them, but they just, they're sitting there and they have not had an opportunity to have their voices heard. And like I said, some of these people that are sitting there are not the best of characters. Okay. Right. So I want to be abundantly clear about that, but they are entitled to due process by our laws here in this country. And we have Democrats on the other side screaming their heads off about illegal immigrants that are criminals, like, that they are being deported, to El Salvador, to a prison that can actually handle these kind of people, these really bad people, or taking them to Gitmo overall. So they're screaming about these people that want to, have committed crimes against Americans, but don't say anything about the people in Fulton County, Georgia. That is the neighboring county here in the metro area of Atlanta. So I'm in DeKalb. We border actually Fulton County, and I will say DeKalb's jails aren't much better than Fulton, but Fulton's are a lot more notorious just in general. Last year, 9 people died in custody, including the person that was eaten to death by bed bugs last year.
Now, because we are almost at the top of the hour, what are you doing April the 12th?
I don't know.
We're having a rally right here, an event right here. It's a celebration for first responders and also our veterans. And we got Captain Cornicelli coming to speak. We got so many people want to come and speak. Please come and speak. because you've been ripping and running, because you stay ripping and running, no matter if it's doing something for the government, if you're traveling across the United States, down at the Gold Dome at Mar-a-Lago, or even in Washington, D.C. I would really love for you to come here and be able to speak.
Well, I would be honored. I have to check the calendar, but let's definitely talk offline about what time frame and what you'd like me to talk about. But I would be very honored to join your crew.
And
so
make sure that you vote for me for the board of directors of the NRA.
I sure am. I'm a lifetime member, so I look forward to voting to you. I'm so excited that the NRA is hosting its annual meeting here in Georgia at the end of April. So I will be there, and I'm sure you'll be at the ladies' luncheon on Friday. I have the invitation right here, April 25th.
And I think I'm gonna be sitting with you and Janet and everybody. But this is what they also, hopefully, cross your fingers, bless us with. They asked us to be on Media Row.
Yay! I'm so excited for you. Oh my gosh. So yes, we're going to have a good old time with Barbara and Julie and Carol and the whole crew. So we'll be all having a great time in hot Atlanta.
Now I'm going to let you have the last word. Everybody, this is Marci McCarthy. Go ahead, Marci.
Well, thank you, Lucretia. Keep up the great work and putting to everybody out there. We are making America great again, and it is at warp speed. So thank you, President Trump, for all that you're doing to make our country great again.
Thank you, Marci. Everybody, y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Go ahead, Dave.